The truth about these 1970s reggae stars is a secret the music industry has tried to bury. These artists didn't just vanish. Something much darker happened after their one famous song. I tracked down the real story behind their sudden disappearance, and the reason they were erased from history will shock you. You must watch until the end to discover the haunting truth about the final artist on this list. Paul Nicholas was never supposed to be the doorway into reggae history, but the record existed. And once something exists, the world has to respond to it. He recorded song Reggae Like It Used to Be, while the genre was still defining itself outside Jamaica. And the song became a novelty success in the United Kingdom. It was catchy, disarmingly bright, almost too polished for the deeper pulse that reggae carried in its roots. It charted well. It made him visible. And then it ended, just as simply as it began. He returned to acting, to scripts and stage lights and the smoother predictability of theater. But that song sits in the archive of reggae, whether the purists welcome it or not. Evidence of how the music slipped into British pop culture at strange angles, shaping and being shaped by outsiders who did not intend to stay. The contrast to Greyhound could not be sharper. Their song Black and White did not try to charm anyone. It carried a message. It spoke directly to racial tension, unfolding publicly, politically, socially. The idea of unity was simple, lyrically plain, but the simplicity was the strength. The world needed music that did not hide behind metaphor. When it rose through the UK charts in 1971, it reflected the hunger for a world in which equality did not have to be argued for. But the world is slow to change, and once the moment passed, the industry shifted. Greyhound did not carry the same momentum forward. A single peak remained the mark that history placed upon them. Yet the song persists in cultural memory because it said something about what people hoped humanity could become, even if humanity never quite achieved it. Shift now. At a different frequency, in a different emotional temperature, the song Let Your Yeah Be Yeah came into existence under the pioneers. Their music had already carried weight in Jamaica, but this track arrived lighter, almost casual. It encouraged honesty with a smile rather than a sermon. When the song crossed the ocean and found UK listeners, it was treated as joyful, singable, uncomplicated. The world decided that this would be the track attached to the pioneer's identity internationally. Yet to understand the group only through this recording is to misunderstand the depth of their work. They were more than one cheerful chorus, but history does not always allow nuance to survive. Meanwhile, a studio was filling with herb, smoke, sweat, and the quiet confidence of teenage girls who were simply enjoying themselves. Althea Forrest and Donna Reed did not enter the studio with the intention to shape global culture. They were riffing, responding, playing. Their song, Uptown Top Ranking, did not behave like a typical reggae track. It was sly, mischievous, full of youthful confidence without arrogance. It sounded like Kingston street rhythm, filtered through schoolyard laughter. Yet when the BBC placed the track into rotation, the world thrust Althea and Donna into a spotlight no one had prepared them for. The song hit #1 in the United Kingdom in 1978. And then almost immediately, the industry released them back into normal life. There was no follow-up machinery. The moment was bright, but finite. Still, when DJs drop the track today, it explodes with the same. Some songs never age because they were not trying to be timeless in the first place. Now break the mood entirely. Dave Barker's voice does not creep into your awareness. It enters like a declaration. His song, I Am the Magnificent, is not an invitation. It is the raising of a flag. The collaboration with Ansel Collins produced the song Double Barrel, a track that sounded like the future deciding it would arrive early. The organ riffs, the raw vocal projection, the swagger of the production, the record announced itself. When it charted globally, including hitting #1 in the UK, the world paid attention, but the industry machine did not hold them in place. There were no repeated international chart runs. Yet the track lived. Hip-hop would later find it, recycle it, reinterpret it. Dave Barker and Ansel Collins did not get the sustained spotlight, but they got something else. Longevity without presence. a song that refuses to disappear. Max Romeo, in contrast, never disappeared. He was already woven into the consciousness of Jamaican roots culture. But the global world heard him through a different doorway. His song Chase the Devil, produced under the experimental genius of Lee Scratch Perry, carried something mystical. It was a chant constructed for spiritual confrontation. Underneath the playful phrasing was a seriousness that could not be dismissed. The track re-emerged decades later when the Prodigy sampled it in the song titled Firestarter, causing Max Romeo's voice to echo through European electronic scenes. A song born from spiritual war found new life in rebellious rave culture. Not everyone who danced to it knew its origin, but the energy of the track carried through regardless. Circle to a Keter voice now, Horace Faith. His recording of the song Black Pearl did not explode with confidence or confrontation. It floated. It carried tenderness. It touched listeners gently and then stepped away. The chart appearance was brief, and the world did not hold his name in loud memory. But the listeners who loved that song held it closely. Some tracks survive not through public acclaim, but through quiet loyalty. A lover's song does not need the world to remember it loudly. It only needs one person to refuse to forget. Paul Davidson made his mark by looking outward. He took Midnight Rider, a song born of another genre entirely, and reshaped it within a reggae rhythm. The result did not sound forced. It carried the fatigue and endurance that the original suggested, but added the slow, unhurried sway of Caribbean tempo. The track charted, gained recognition, and then stood alone. Davidson did not repeat the same public success, but the record remains a document of reggae's ability to reshape other musical worlds. Now return to Dandy Livingstone, not because of his chart position, but because of what happened behind the curtain. Suzanne, Beware of the Devil, is the song history chose to remember publicly, but Dandy Livingstone's true contribution existed in the structure of the UK reggae scene. He influenced the sound formation that allowed ska revival movements to later flourish. Producers often stand in the shadow of the very culture they helped build. Livingstone shaped rooms he would never receive full recognition for shaping. To call him a one-hit wonder is to misunderstand the entire system that allowed reggae to evolve in Britain. These stories are not connected by chronology or similarity. They collide because reggae did not follow a singular evolutionary line. It spread through migration, cultural exchange, accidental influence, economic necessity, political upheaval, and personal expression. The artists did not know they were participating in something historic. They were responding to the moment in front of them. A rhythm, a conversation, a chance, a door left slightly open. The industry measured success differently than the culture did. Charts decide what becomes visible, but communities decide what becomes permanent. A one-hit wonder is only a one-hit wonder if the only measure is repetition of fame. But reggae never measured meaning that way. Some songs were not intended to dominate an industry. They were intended to speak to a people. And people remember what they need. The teenager who played Uptown Top Ranking because she saw herself in the lyrics remembers better than any chart. The record collector who finds a worn copy of Let Your Yeah Be Yeah in a market crate and smiles does more for legacy than radio ever did. The DJ who samples Double Barrel to make a new track in Brooklyn or Lagos or Berlin keeps the song alive by transforming it. The dancer who hears Chase the Devil without knowing its history still responds to the force of its truth. Immortality in music is not public. It is personal. These artists touched that space. They did not disappear. They dispersed across continents, across generations, across the private emotional landscapes people rarely speak about aloud. The hit was not the accomplishment. The memory was, and the memory remains. So tell me which of these stories surprised you the most. Let me know in the comments if you have ever heard any of these songs before. Share your own theory about why these artists never had another hit. I want to know your thoughts. Follow for more hidden stories of the music industry.